It gives me immense pleasure today to introduce to you all Mr. Yeshwanth Parasmal, co-founder and CEO of 21K School. As an education thought leader, Mr. Yeshwanth is dedicated to advancing the field of education and empowering learners of all ages to reach their full potential. With 23 years of experience in the education sector, he has developed a deep understanding for challenges and opportunities facing educators and learners today. He is known for his ability to develop and implement innovative and effective educational programs and for bringing diverse stakeholders together to achieve common goals. His focus has been largely to leverage technology to improve learning outcomes in K 12 schools. He has extensive experience in integrating technology into curriculum and has seen firsthand positive impact it has had on student engagement and achievements. He believes that technology has the power to level the playing field for all students and provide them with the skills they need to succeed in the 21st century. As a strategic thinker and problem solver, he has a proven track record of success in developing and managing educational institutions offering top notch, scalable curriculums that drive student achievement and close achievement gaps. He is a skilled communicator and a collaborator who's able to build strong relationships with educators, administrators, policymakers, and community leaders. Welcome, Mr. Yashwant, to my humble platform. I am possible and smart, inspired by my daughter's spirit to live, where we converse from our hearts.
Thank you so much, Manisha. Thank you for having me on this platform.
Thank you once again for joining us. The whole intent is to speak to change makers from various backgrounds and invite their perspective on how can we create a more better, a more inclusive society. Being from the education, the sector, Mr. Yashwant, what are your observations?
I think I'm truly grateful for you to give me this opportunity to share my views about an important topic around inclusivity. As an educationist, been involved in the schools, colleges, universities for over 2 decades now. I have a completely different perspective of how, probably from my perspective, I've seen teachers, educators, parents, students accepting inclusivity. I truly believe, because this is important, because my father had polio. So he was not able to walk freely. His left leg was affected. So we have always seen that need for inclusivity. Though those words were not probably true. We didn't hear these words at home or in society for long until I joined the education space. But I know how important it is, as to have those values. Where you are inclusive and not just in thought or in terms of empathizing, but actually living an inclusive life. There's a lot of word and spoken things or documents available about how to make an organization inclusive, but I think it's also bottles down to an individual, right? For me, the way I see inclusive is about what kind of values that you hold. So if you have respect, you have trust, and you will be inclusive. And unfortunately, the entire conversation around inclusivity just rests around two things: about inclusive workplaces, inclusivity in the dimension of physical or mental disabilities. Inclusivity goes beyond these dimensions. It could be as an individual. It could be just about sharing your lunch with anyone at office or at workplace. It could also mean about the gender differences. It could be about relationships also. The husband and wife relationship, or father and son, father versus daughter. I think that culturally we weigh an inclusive society, I think what I understand. But over the period of year, whether it's film, media, or even our epics like Mahabharata and Ramayana, you have seen that anybody who had a physical disability was portrayed in a bad role, right? If you look at Manthara, or if you look at Shakuni also, so this was seen to be a kind of a weakness. So there are rules and regulations. The PWD Act and government has done enough to bring in the legal laws, but as a society at a consciousness level, I truly believe that we are still far away from being inclusive. You'll be very surprised, Manisha. I've visited schools which, on the website, on the brochure, claims to be an inclusive school, but they would not have physically disabled toilets, right? Or
Absolutely.
my question to the principals was also that about when you talk about inclusivity, how can you have ranks in that place, right? You speak to an inclusive school and then you differentiate students based on the intellectual ability and give a rank 1 and rank 10 to students, right? I mean, you're not being inclusive. So the understanding of inclusivity, I think it's far lower than what we understand. I mean, I think a lot of people understood about the learning disabilities only after Amir Khan's movie on Tare Zameen Pe. I don't think even I knew what is the Hindi word for inclusivity, right? I mean, it's so much more unheard, unspoken, undiscussed at family level, at individual level, at corporate level, at government level, of
And the
course.
problem is that each of us do what we do or think what we do in a silo, right? And there's no organized approach when it comes to these kind of large issues which impacts lives. Or do you think there are certain systems like, let's say, in the space of education, or let's say healthcare, or even with respect to design of physical spaces, we really need an authority or a board or some sort of a central body to give us a framework?
Absolutely. I think, fortunately, the government is initiating thoughts or discussions around inclusive. But I agree with you, there has to be a broader framework, right? About not just limited to inclusive workplaces, but it could be about inclusive schools. It could be about, the various dimensions of inclusivity in all walks of life. And that is clearly missing. Those who are interested, who are sensitive, who are probably aware about this issue still do not know. And there's a lot of confusing information that are available. So I mean, having one central authority which guides, right, not necessarily in the form of law, it could be an enabling framework which can
Absolutely.
drive
Absolutely.
inclusive behavior in all aspects of. I mean, think of it like the maternity benefits, right? I mean, had it not been a law, I mean, I'm sure it would have been, a major issues with uh,
Scattered, yeah.
would recognize, right? Implemented right from the school education into the
That's
curriculum.
what everybody believes. Yes, the injection happens at a much earlier level, the better it is incorporated and rolled out in the society.
Could
Thinking, I have a normal child and I have a child who's specially abled, and I've been torn between literally two kinds of mindsets all along, and it's not been easy till both my children got into 21K school, and I find myself completely at ease here because I feel that it's a level playing field. The environment is friendly, you have an online, you have an offline format, you've really worked it out. So in this space, what do you think is happening? Because I'm sure educators, people or experts from the space that you belong to are continuously deliberating on improvements.
I think there's a lot of things spoken about inclusivity in the national education policy, but if you ask me, is it being happening? Is it
Rolled
being
out.
translated into the ground action? I don't see that happening at all. There are a number of reasons. I don't think it's only because the intent is not there. It's also the availability of trained resources, guidelines, framework, and things, right? And then if you look at the broader framework, right? I mean, we have the boards, we have the departments, schools, and everything, right? But inclusivity as such has not been made into a priority. I don't know, Manisha, are you aware about any special day that's being celebrated as a day of inclusive day?
No, I've heard of thousands of days, like this month is supposed to be the
Yeah.
SMA awareness month, right? So there are lots of silo days happening, silo months
I'm not
happening.
sure whether there's any particular ministry that has been assigned or things, right? I mean, there are some countries I've heard which have even assigned a special minister or dedicated department to work on inclusivity and other things, right? So such initiatives are not happening at the national level, and definitely if it's not happening at national level, it's hard to imagine that it could happen, right? I mean, ideally, schools should be celebrating at least, if not a month, a week or day around inclusivity, make people
Absolutely.
understand what it is to have an inclusive behavior, because see, these people are the ones who go and join organization, right? And organizations are made out of people and individuals, right? And if you have every person who understands inclusive, your organization will become inclusive. Like Mahatma Gandhi used to have a separate approach. I was reading about Mahatma Gandhi. He had an approach of saying and or also. I mean, whenever he used to think about it, he says what could be included, what could be excluded, and what could also, out of all the common, normally you think that, okay, these are the people to be included, but what also could have been included, right? Historically, I think society was very inclusive. I mean, we didn't have any special word, any
Yeah,
verbiage around
exactly.
physical disability and others, but I think over the last couple of centuries, we've completely lost that.
Whole concept of online school actually was new to us. The pandemic actually exposed us to the methodology of online education, right? Otherwise, parents like us, we were not sure whether the online mechanism would work or not work, right? In Bangalore, Out of all the convent schools in central Bangalore, Frank Anthony School accepted both the children in the same school despite not having the environment physically equipped. They never stopped and said, no, Monisha, we don't have a ramp, so we cannot admit Kia, we can only admit Naira in the school. Now, why did that happen? Because the vice principal of the school and the principal of the school believed that if I would provide the required support, they would provide the required support from their end and we would be able to bridge the gap. Within a year, the school built a ramp, and the ramp was just a small ramp. It wasn't like going all the way up to the second floor of the school. It was a small ramp. They were anyway making a new block, and they designated the ground floor of the new block for all the children who would be physically, sort of challenged. And that ramp was built in that new block, and it helped them admit more children, actually. Just that one little exercise that they did. That enabled, Kia to start coming into the play field, start going across to the music room, going across to the other areas of the school, and that is what led her to actually participate in the sports day mass drill, where she actually danced on her wheelchair. That experience was so ingrained in her system that she went on to write a book which today stands recognized. That experience.
Look at this incident, right? It actually shows that the management of the school, both the fathers, are very extremely child-centric, right? If they are willing to make things happen for one child,
yes.
I could just probably relate and see what they would be doing for all the other kids also. Right? So much extremely focused on making that goal of quality education available for every child without any references.
They would also crave, Mr. Yeshwanth, say that, Manisha, the system is very dated. It is very difficult for us to get an approval, but they did persist and they got those little changes done. I'm only saying that if 10 schools, right, did 10 small things every year, each school did one small thing every year and enabled such children to enter their premises to get education, imagine the number of, real life heroes there would be in our society.
See, I'll tell you, the law around having all-inclusive infrastructure at least has been there for at least about last 7 to 8 years that I have seen. But unfortunately, what happens, right, at the time of affiliation, right? Because all the boards, whether it's international boards or Indian boards like CBSE, have to include and ensure that all the infrastructure meets these standards, right? So including the safety norms of physical disability, ramps and lifts and all those things, right? But it's not enforced. In all the priorities, let's say if there are 10 major compliances to be made, all this infrastructure related to about an inclusive workplace or environment, physical environment, I'm saying, it's probably at 9 or 10. So the argument is that, okay, out of 10, the organization has complied with 8. So why should I stop the affiliation, right? Seen as it's not important, not critical, right? So fire safety, the fire safety also historically in India was never a priority in the schools. Unless that incident of Kumbakonam happened where, more than 100 kids were burned alive while in the school because they did not have an escape route. Thereafter, if you see across Tamil Nadu schools, the government is very, very strict when it comes to fire compliances. To an extent where in Chennai, they don't even allow school buildings more than 2 floors. Really, as a society, are we waiting for such an incident to happen? School? That's the problem with it.
I swear.
If you don't prioritize having inclusive mindset, infrastructure, people, policies, right, it'll never get implemented.
You had the freedom to implement something in this direction. And if it's not so much of an investment, I'm talking about a capital intensive sort of a measure, would you make that a goal for a year, academic year, and have that rolled out? Does it move you from within to do something like this? Knowing that there are children who can benefit. And one of the living examples could be my own daughter, right?
Before 21K School, I was working with my own company called Stratagem EduServe, where I've been involved in establishing over 75 schools, colleges, and universities. Right? So my role was as a consultant to advise the clients, the investors in building the school, which includes the architectural dimension, academics, hiring, getting the approvals, and so on. Right. So one of the things which I've learned, Monisha, is that people may not understand the importance of inclusivity per se, right? So what I started linking inclusivity or inclusive workplaces or organizations with economics of it, right? So that has always worked. And also linking it with the policy compliances legal. So there are 2 types of organizations, one which are extremely particular about compliances Others, which are not so very happy with it. I mean, the normal process, okay, I'll manage to get the affiliation, don't worry. Why is a lift required, right? And then when I start speaking about the economic aspect of it, because it will help you in getting admissions, better publicity, speak about it. You'll be the first inclusive school in your city, in a small place like Piparia and others, right? I mean, it has always worked. How do you make the change happen? Because I'll
You have
have
to
to
sell the
speak
idea. Yeah.
the language where the other person understands.
Yes.
Today, a lot of corporates, really, I mean, the HR departments of the corporates take pride in calling it as an inclusive school because it's a mandatory to get the award under the great workplaces. So, irrespective of whatever is the motivation, as long as the environment becomes inclusive environments, I think, our goal is achieved. So the rationale behind it, the push, the drive behind it could be very different, but at least that first small changes. I assure you, I think, that now that you have instigated that thought in my mind, I would say that this year's calendar is already made, but the next academic calendar will have 1 week devoted to celebrate inclusivity all around us.
Perfect. I think that makes a brilliant difference because it helps us to at least think in this direction. And like a herd philosophy, Mr. Yashwant, if I see you doing something nice and it triggers something inside me, you will feel like doing it. And that's how human beings are built. An innate problem inside us that unless we see 10 people doing it and we don't, we don't start believing in it. That's how it works. Is there anything that you would want to ask of me as a parent? I'm asking you because I'm sure as a senior member from the space, you could be full of complaints to, why are the parents always cribbing and, not coming forward and doing this or that. Is there anything that you want to send out as a message to parents of children?
I think as a society whole, right? I mean, the consciousness level or the acceptability, if it's not about inclusivity, at least the respect, the core value of empathy, respect, not judging person by the skin of the color of the skin or the gender and others. In India, I've never found a male teacher teaching in a preschool or at kindergarten level, right? I've never seen. I mean, I've never seen even anyone applying also for a job. Abroad, when I visited a couple of schools, I did see male teachers teaching even at nursery and kindergarten level, right? Why is this? So as a society, I think, we've become too fragmented. We've also become insensitive. I also believe that, the willingness to accept differences has been reducing for whatever reasons. And I think there's a lot more change that will require at a conscious level, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
having a framework would definitely help, but is that the only thing will help? I know. I don't think it will help. I mean, and I also believe that schools are the places where this transformation can happen.
It's a big space. It's a huge space.
See, I've worked in very remote areas, right? I mean, I have established the first CBSE school in the tribal affected area, an Naxalite affected area. And I've seen just educating, bringing one girl child or a child also to a school has transformed the entire families. The impact is beyond measure, right? That is the change that, as educational institutions, as the organizations, there are multiple bodies working on with schools, colleges, universities. I think they need to prioritize inclusivity in the society, which unfortunately is not happening. It's all becoming very commercial, but there are some brilliant educators, brilliant organizations. I think they can definitely take the lead.
Imagine if a trip could be made to some, amazing remote area where, the child or the children who are taken along with the pack are being made to mingle with the community there and share information in terms of, how education is passed on to them and share some learning. Right? Somewhere we are giving our children amazing exposure, but we are taking them away from the grassroots of our country, right? And our grassroots of the country are still massively agrarian. Okay, 60% of our population are still in the villages. People who are growing up in the villages, they have this very flashy idea of how city life is, and they are blindly, literally, running after jobs to secure jobs in a city. But somebody from the city coming down to them and telling them that here also something can happen, whether it is an awareness camp or it is some sort of an education camp, even if it's for a short term, where some skill exchange can happen. I think that amount of impact that will be left behind in the mind of a child, both at the rural level and at the urban level will be fantastic. The child is going to probably understand inclusivity like nobody else can ever teach them, right? Because then they are, traveling to the other side to meet another individual and bridge that gap. And that will create empathy, because the child from the city will realize that, maybe that Dubai trip would have been fantastic, but here this child is wanting to study, is studying the midnight oil there. And
Hmm.
here we get the iPads and we get the phones and we get the laptops, and our ethics in our the concentration that we spend while studying is so much weaker. These things cannot be disseminated by the school or by the parents. It can only happen by these kind of exchanges.
If you get a chance, Manisha, do visit the Riverside School in Ahmedabad. I think, or even the website, I think they have run a fantastic program called Design for Change. It revolves, and today that program has been taken up and adopted by schools globally. It's
Okay.
been set up by Mrs. Kiran Sethi, and it's been a fantastic school. I would rate that as one of the best schools in the country today. So one of the activities they did, right, to build empathy was that around child labor, for instance, right? So they made the kids in the school roll agarbattis at school,
Okay.
right? And do that physical work, and it went on beyond the school hours till late evenings, without proper food, light, and other things, right?
So they
And
understood what
they
the children
understood
went
what it
through.
was. It had a transformational change, right? Many of the families had employed young kids at home, right, to serve them tea
Yes.
and all. All that changed. There were live experiences, recorded videos. You
Absolutely.
having spent this time, speaking to different individuals and others. I mean, what do you think for a school like ours, right, an online school? So apart from the things that you mentioned about the trip, do you think is there any significant change we as founders or as a school could have done better from your parent perspective? And I'll truly take it. Don't worry. Please be honest.
During the pandemic, I used to run a platform called Festivals of India, and Festivals of India was basically a very simple platform to, uh, you know, uh, celebrate Indian festivals online. Started with this whole concept of celebrating art, culture, and education. Three concepts, three pillars on which we would celebrate a festival. So everything was online, where a child artist could come and present their work. If it was an education space, somebody who could teach soft skills. Like, let's say, public speaking. We would invite somebody to teach children, etc. And I was back in Vizag, where my roots are, and there was one lady who has, she's a trained fashion designer from Bombay, but she's dedicated her entire life to, bringing up abandoned children, especially challenged children, right? So she's actually invested in a piece of land on the outskirts of, Vishakhapatnam, and she has made her farmhouse there, sort of, which is like a dwelling space where all these children are kept safe, they are educated, and they are literally, they're growing up like they have a family there. I told my children on the platform here that, you know what, let's do this little exchange program. It's going to be online, and let us celebrate the festival of Diwali with these children, right? So let's see how differently able children are. And I understood the differently able space only thanks to Kia, right? Not because of anything else. But the fact that, there could be an exchange possible, and trust me, she had Madhu is her name, the lady who operated the place. It's called Icha Foundation. She had children of all kinds. So she had children with cerebral palsy, to autism, to just a physical handicap, to a normal child who was abandoned just because she was a girl child. All kinds of children there. And our children who were from safe, secure backgrounds, we got them all together and we showed how these kids celebrated. They made their own crackers and they made their own rangolis and they did their puja and whatnot. Simple, absolutely simple exchange of a festival thought. But we took that opportunity and we said, okay, let's break these barriers. I'm talking with respect to your space being an online space, right? In terms of for education being transferred. And honestly, you just need an internet connection and you can be in any part of the world. Any part of the world. Today, thanks to the access of information online, we can find out who are these amazing revolutionaries who are doing, fantabulous work from different parts of the world, and have maybe one or two sessions planned, or planted in between the curriculum. And our children remember those days so well, they completely forgot it was the pandemic going on. So somewhere I feel we all keep cribbing, right? That the online education space is too stationary. The child is always sitting on the, in front of the laptop, and it's not a great space. I think if an online school started doing these things, trust me, nobody would go to an offline school, because an offline school will not be able to create these opportunities the way that an online school can really do. And you can take them to, to places world over. And I think those excursions in terms of that, that making that print in the memory would be remembered for life.
And according to you, are the biggest roadblockers for education institutions or companies to be inclusive? What do you
The
think?
child is cognitively able, may not be perfect on a score of 10, but if a child is cognitively high on scale, in an online space, I don't think a physical handicap actually, bears any relevance. Every parent of a specially able child is equipped themselves, because we self-learn, right? We learn out of our own experiences. So if a child has to be plugged in, I think it has to be a marriage between, the thoughts of what the school can do for the child and what the parent can do for the child. I cannot levy everything, every expectation of mine as a parent on the school, saying that, I want my child to be educated and I do not know how you're going to do it. I just need an admission. That's not the way it's going to work. I keep telling every parent of a specially able child that please, you have to join the team, right? You have to become a part of that education system. Mr. Yeshwanth, is that parents of special children are very good counselors. Suppose there is a child who's just been detected with a fresh case of some problem, right? And they're seeking admission at a lower grade. A school would know, okay, this is my directory of, and this is what you should leverage, because you already would be including them, is what I'm assuming. And the moment you make an inclusive education space, you'll also have enough wealth of information from these parents who can help each other out, just like how you have a PTA. And all you need is just some representation in the PTA with parents who can counsel other parents. It could be in the mental health space, it could be in the physical health space, and that's how the bridges can be built. We really don't need to look external and look for expensive methods to find solutions to these problems.
I think there's a lot of positive things happening around us over the last couple of years, and I hope that the government can take the steps ahead. Not just the government, I think each one of us as individuals, thanks to you, ma'am. I mean, the way you have initiated this awareness month with some fantastic conversations, videos available. I think it is also creating an impact. The way you have thought about solving for problem for the society, right? I mean, without getting just overwhelmed with your own personal problems or just taking care of the kids at home. It's just amazing.
No solution otherwise, Mr. Yashwant. I wish there was, if I just looked internally, and I tried to, keep it within my boundaries and staying silent and doing this in a silo. It doesn't work. I'm being selfish, very honestly speaking. Please don't give me credibility. These kind of, large battles cannot be won in silos. That's what I keep telling everyone, that for this, you really need support of pretty much the whole village. And if you have to help 10 others to get help from them back, then be it. I'm just trying to be a parent who is going to who's trying to leave behind a society where my child can coexist. At least in her circle of life, if there are even 20 people she can depend on, then I can go peacefully.
Someone has to hold the torch and walk ahead, right? I mean,
yeah.
The light of that only will guide the others. So, so thank you for holding the torch.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And if it wasn't for you, trust me, so many things would not be possible. You all are doing amazing work, and I keep bragging about the school and the work being done here. Thanks to you. Please keep doing the good work. Anything that we can ever do for you to make you feel a part of our family, please do let us know. You're not alone in this space. This is all I can leave you with.
Really enjoyed having this conversation.
Thank you,
and I've
sir.
got a couple of insights and ideas. I'll definitely discuss this with my team, and we'll try to do things right.
Thank you, and stay blessed, Mr. Yashwant.